to thank you, Lucy. Welcome to the first webinar of 2026 that I'm running on AI strategy. As I said, it's lovely lovely for those of you to make it, and those of you also watching on recording. Right, so it'd be useful actually to know a little bit more about you, Nick. What's your, I mean, obviously I know what your firm is, but tell me a little bit more about your firm, where you are, a little bit more about the disciplines that you cover, and maybe a little bit of little potted history. That would be useful to know for us.
Yeah, sure, no problem at all.
Oh,
So
here's Alison. She's coming in. Yes, lovely. Okay, I'll let her in. Yeah, carry on, Nick. Yeah.
okay, so Higgs is a full service regional law firm. We act for SMEs and high net worth individuals and provide holistic legal services to those clients, varying shapes, sizes, sectors, and areas of expertise. And we are we would consider ourselves to be champions in the West Midlands region.
Hmm.
We think there's a gap in the market to look after that kind of client base in the SME sector and those people who own, manage, and build and run those companies. And
Hmm.
so in 2025, we secured investment from August Equity to build and help us achieve our vision, which is to have multi-regional firms, or one firm with multi-regional offices, I say, looking after those SMEs and the people who own, manage, run, and build them and provide holistic services to them. So, to put that into context, if Richard, you and somebody else own an engineering business turning over £20 million, we know that in any one year, you're going to need various elements of support in your capacity as an owner, manager, shareholder, director, from a personal perspective and from a business perspective as you run your business and are compliant and grow and need leases and have employees and enter into commercial contracts. And our services are kind of geared up to do that.
And can I ask whether, obviously, you talked about your plans to scale. I presume AI and automation and agentic AI and other things are part of that plan. Is that where you sit at the moment?
Yeah, so there were multiple reasons for us considering and taking the investment, but that was one of many factors.
Yeah.
The balancing the safe use of AI with highly regulated, highly data compliant, etc., sector is really important. And what we do know is that undoubtedly, as AI evolves and continues on its journey, if you like, that it will
Mhm.
form an integral part of what we do to grow and build as a firm.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
from a ultimately, law firms or lawyers sell time and expertise, and of course, AI brings hallucinations and problems with it aside, brings expertise in quick, sharp
It
time.
does. It does.
Um, and so, from a legal perspective, our approach is that AI is only going to enhance the services that lawyers can provide to our clients and be more. It's an extra pair of eyes and it's an extra speed and sense check, and it can be used to enhance it. But more importantly, our AI can be used to improve the services that we're offering to our client base by
Of course.
analyzing opportunities, analyzing needs, analyzing all sorts of things within a database in a controlled and safe way
Yes.
to make sure that we're offering the very best service and the very best client experience to our clients.
And just before I come on to ask Alison if she's available, I just wanted to ask you as well that what I found, well, comment really, and one is that what I found is that smaller and medium-sized firms see AI as an opportunity to scale and compete with some of the big guys. In terms of your regional office infrastructure, for example, it'll give you that. Is that where you see things?
Um, uh, so, to a certain extent, yes. I think um, I think the data is the key to this, and getting the data in the right place in the right shape in the right systems
Absolutely.
is kind of key starting point to this. So uh, yeah, yes, to a certain extent. It depends in what context that question is raised.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so, so, um, so, will it enable you to do things quicker and faster and more effectively? In some respects, absolutely yes. But it starts with the data. It's got to start with the data being in the right shape.
Of course, 100% it does. Absolutely. And Alison, welcome. Lovely to see you. I know your firm because of you're based in Liverpool, but for the rest of us, could you give us a little of an overview of the firm and a little bit of a potted history and the areas you operate in and how you see the future?
Yes, thank you. And sorry, I had my camera turned off because I am going to have to at some point eat my lunch before I fall over. So I didn't want to
I bet,
subject the
I
rest
bet.
of you to have the vision of that. Yes, Moorcrofts, we are over 200 years old, based in Liverpool. We have 6 offices all around the Liverpool city region. Headcount at the moment is about 130, although it seems to keep going up. We offer business and private client services. We are committed to family legal aid, and we still have a legal aid contract. We do quite a lot of childcare and domestic abuse work, but we also do commercial, employment, litigation, residential and commercial property, quite a lot of private client
Yes.
and private family work. So quite a mix of lots of different things.
I think I remember you're quite a broad-based practice, obviously, and being established for so long. Would you be fair to call you a traditional high street solicitor, or would that be a fair description of you?
Uh, I suppose so. I mean, I think we have evolved
Mm.
over the last years. You know, we have a very strong brand. We are seen as a solicitor of choice for quite a few firms where we have,
Yes.
for example, employment retainer clients, and uh,
Mm.
so you know we've really built our commercial offering over.
Yes, indeed. And just finally, just to ask you about AI. Obviously, we're all here to talk about the safety and compliance aspects of it.
Mm.
But from an opportunity, which we're going to go through in a second, but from an opportunity point of view, how do you see it fitting into your strategy? Or are you just one of those firms that I've spoken to where, look, we just want to understand the compliance side first, then we'll think about how we expand our capacity. What's your take on it?
I think I would say that in terms of the AI journey, we aren't far enough along yet. I'd like us to be further along it. I'm
Mm.
really excited about AI. I think it's a
Okay.
fabulous tool that we should be able to use to make us more productive, more efficient, and to help our clients better. But we also need to make sure that all our team know the limitations and when they shouldn't be using it. And it was the shadow AI issue I thought was quite
Of
interesting
course.
because, you know, we
Mm.
know full well that many of our team are using it in their day-to-day lives, even outside of work.
Yes,
We obviously, you know, we have a policy. We tell them when they can and can't use it, but
of course.
it's impossible really to monitor
It
what people
is.
are using it for.
I
So.
Yes, I have some suggestions about that in a bit that we'll come to. But yes, that's a common, hence the topic is that it's come from lots of conversations that I had last year, and it's obvious that shadow AI is a wider issue. Very quickly, Ivan, if you want to say something, please do before I crack on. But if you don't, I'll give you a couple of seconds. If not, I'll move on with the presentation. Please feel free to chip in. And what I'll say to everybody is. This is more of a conversation, not death by slide deck, but there will be some slides. You'll get copies of that, you'll get copies of the recording and what the follow-up actions are if you want them. But please do feel free to put things in the chat. There is going to be a couple of opportunities where we're going to ask you for your opinion on a couple of things. There'll be Q&A at the end as well. I'm aiming to take about the next sort of 20-25 minutes or so, but it can be longer if you want it to be in terms of questions. So let me move on quickly for you. Okay. So first of all, as I said, welcome. I'm Richard. I'm Richard Dawson, and I help law firm leaders to turn AI uncertainty into strategic confidence. This is not a tech demo. I'm not going to be showing you lots of AI wow moments, because if this was a year ago, I probably would be showing you some AI wow moments, but we're past that point now. This is a governance conversation. by the end of the session, we should have you should have, I hope anyway, a clear picture of shadow AI, what it looks like, and 3 steps that's going to help you get compliant before the SRA asks you. And also, I hope some language to answer when clients ask, "Do you use AI?" So let's start with something recently that's made the headlines, and there's 1 or 2 of these things, but I thought we'd start with this one because it caught my eye because I've seen a few LinkedIn posts about this, and you will be familiar with this one, some of you. So yes, recently, 2025, I think in the summer, late summer, something like that, there was a case. Hyundai against London Borough of Haringey, and this was a situation where a junior barrister submitted legal submissions that had used a lot of AI for, weren't checked, and had 5 fake citations. It was £12,000 of wasted costs, and the judgment was sent to the SRA and the Bar Standards Board. Used to be this Bar Standards Council in the old, didn't it? Yes. The judge actually said, in his opinion, it was actually professional misconduct. It undermined the integrity of the legal profession. So this is one of the things that has got the legal profession and the SRA on their toes about the whole AI issue. So obviously, if you have a junior associate in your firm who hallucinates a citation or indeed other aspects of the law, the regulator may look at you. In fact, they probably will look at you, actually. But the danger, of course, is that the output looked very professional and looked very credible, but hadn't been supervised. That was the fundamental issue. So the reality check really is, I think, if you asked your team right now who's using AI, I'm sure plenty would probably tell you and put their hands up. But actually, what you find is the usage data suggests that we're talking a usage around about 80% in some form. That gap between what you see and what you hear about and what actually is happening is called shadow AI. So, and that's the gap where liability sits, from your point of view. Okay, let's get a sense of where you are. I got a little bit of the gist of what you said before, Alison, about where you are, but hopefully Lucy's going to launch a poll in a moment if she can. If not, I'll just read out the options. And yeah, there you go. If you could, please feel free to vote, and we'll see what you say. And I'll tell you what I found of the firms I have spoken to, where they are on the journey. Any more? I think that's going to be. Oh, there you go. Oh, interesting. I reckon Ivan's put no policy. I think. Yeah. Okay. So what I found is that most firms are probably between the B and the C. So they are aware of it. They are doing something about it, though they feel they are. But they're having difficulty enforcing that policy. Or they're able to actively manage it, and they're happy that they are actively managing it. But they need a framework. Not many at option D yet, and there's a fair number. I would say probably 30% of firms are at option A because they really haven't looked at AI at all, and they're either because they're terrified or they don't want to admit it exists, maybe. So I think that's where we are really. So that's really both people between the B and the C, and I think that's the consensus here are exactly what this session is for. So we face a bring your own AI problem. Now, I'm old enough to remember the world of the bring your own device wars. So you probably remember when the internet came a thing, which is quite a long time ago now. We had a problem in a lot of businesses with bring your own devices, people bringing their own smartphones and in maybe other devices and using the internet at work without you having any control or authorization of it. So we called that the BYOD wars, and IT departments fought bring your own device like the devil. I can remember the IT department in my organization were trying to stop people doing it. So that's really the parallel. Statistically speaking, looking at the research, 82%, 83% of legal documents are entering unauthorized platforms. That doesn't mean they're being entirely created on AI platforms. What it means is, for example, people are using, say, ChatGPT, which everyone talks about, and they're copying and pasting content maybe from maybe from a workflow and a practice management system into AI to improve, say, a bit of correspondence or read a document. And that means that data is now then being put onto unauthorized platforms, and there's obviously a data protection and client data integrity issue then. The interesting thing is that only 30% of employees actually think this is a problem. Now, the reason for that is that it's a bit like the cybersecurity thing. People think, oh, it's fine, it's not really a problem. And it's really about awareness and education when they realize why that might be a problem, that they want to sort of want to do something about it. So you've got probably the vast majority of your team using tools that haven't been approved, perhaps putting client data into systems that you don't control. And most of them don't even think they're doing anything wrong. But here's the but here, and that is, and I think this is something that Nick certainly hinted at in one of the messages he sent me, may have said something earlier on the same topic. It isn't necessarily recklessness on their part, it's lack of awareness, and it's actually them being resourceful, trying to be more productive and trying to improve your productive capacity. So the balance we're going to strike today is about governing the use of AI without quashing and squashing and pressing down on that desire for them to create to create more capacity and do their work in a more effective manner. But of course, resourcefulness without that governance is potentially liability. So 2025 was very much the wow phase for AI. I'm sure that's the way you probably feel about it. Certainly this time last year, it was a world of wow moments, all the things it can do. And there's still hundreds of wow moments every day now. And if I had decided to put some of them in this presentation, we could find some new ones. But I think where we are now is we're past this AI thing is impressive. Everyone, you probably know, like the internet, really, a lot of this has been driven by personal use. So there's lots of people using AI for maybe fun things and personal things, bringing it to work. And they understand what it does. They know what it does, maybe showing colleagues how it works and how they could do things. The danger, of course, is that wow, without a strategy creates a risk. Now, 2026 not only is a new year, and we're certainly here now, but it feels different. I think a lot of the conversations already I'm having and the tone of things that people are talking about is very much a sense of this is the how phase. How do we do this? There's obviously the governance aspects we talk about, but what's our policy? What do we tell clients? What happens if we get asked by the SRA? And really, how do we get the best advantage out of AI for our practice? Now, as we found with Bring Your Own Device, the reality is if you want to control and manage this, banning it and banning these tools and trying to stop people from doing it is pretty much impossible. What's going to happen is you tell them not to use it and they're just going to use them anyway. They'll just hide it. They'll just hide it better. But equally, as with some firms around, they're ignoring the problem. That's equally dangerous, obviously, because for the issues we were just talking about. So the answer isn't prohibition or permission as such. It's just being very strategically clear with your team exactly what you do and you don't want to do. So we're going to cover that in a 3-step process very shortly. So let's briefly talk about the SRA. I do have a contact in the SRA. What I know of, and the two managing partners on here may know differently, because they will be absolutely directly in the loop with the SRA on this one. As far as I can see with the regulator, and this is true, this is less true in financial services. I think the financial services side is a little bit more on top. The SRA are coming to terms with and getting their heads around what AI means from a compliance point of view. So when I talk about SRA Rule 4.2, that you can't outsource professional judgment to AI, that's not what the rule says, of course. It doesn't say that, but effectively that's what it means. But I think over the course of this year, we are going to see significant evolution in the way they define the use of AI. So you can't outsource professional judgment to AI. So those citation errors we talked about before, obviously, are examples of that. And it's not optional, of course. What does it mean in practical terms, though? It means obviously that hallucinated citation would be your liability. Client data leak would be your breach, not the AI, not the vendor that sold you the AI, but yours, of course. I know somebody in one of the Magic Circle firms. They're not. They are a partner, but they're not very senior. I think, but they're so big, those firms. It's hard to understand who's what level. And they said something to me that they worry about is they're not worried by the technology. They're worried about explaining to a client why the merger documents they've been working on have showed up in an AI training data set. That's their fear, and it's perfectly legitimate. The problem with a lot of the fear that we're talking about here in terms of regulatory compliance is what it's creating is paralysis. And a lot of firms are desperate to move on with adopting AI strategically, increasing, improving their capacity and enhancing the capability of their people and improving their competitiveness. But they are a bit frozen by the fear of what it might do from a regulatory point of view. And when they read cases like that, it kind of makes it worse. So let me show you a framework that I think is going to help you. There are 3 steps in this framework. Just have to take a quick drink. Audit. What are they actually saying? In other words, what are they actually using? Alignment. Which tools you decide to officially support and why? And then adoption. A creation of a policy, a 1-page policy that has clear swim lanes, not a 47-page compliance manual because nobody will read it. The goal here is not to create red tape. The goal is to give your team a green light to innovate, but safely. So I'm going to walk you through now these 3 steps and how they can help you. Audit. Now, this is really where, in my experience, people are getting this wrong. And what they're getting wrong, perhaps rather obviously, is they're asking people, has anybody been using AI? And what tends to happen, as I'm sure you know, probably all managed people here, is that people's reaction is panic, thinking they're in trouble, maybe deleting their browser history, maybe hiding their devices, going into denial about it. And of course, like bring your own device, the lesson we learned from that was, all it does is push these things further underground. The right way, of course, I'm sure you realize, is an amnesty style. We're building you frame this in a very positive way. You're building an AI policy. You want to understand what tools are helpful for them and already helpful for them in their jobs. You perhaps make it anonymous, and you certainly make it without consequence as well. And no blame, no fear, just information. And frame it very much in the form that there's a business you want to move on and adopt and use AI to grow capacity of the business and to help them thrive as individuals as well. So what you're mapping there would be what tools, who is using them, for what tasks they're using them for, and which of those might involve the use of client data. So Lucy's going to pop a quick question for you in the chat, and she already has. If you asked your associates tomorrow what AI tools are you using, would they tell you the truth? Yes or no? You can answer, or you could put it in the chat. I'm interested to hear if you've had what sort of feedback you've had from people, what they say to you about AI use. Nick, have you got any thoughts about that if you're available? Alison, have you any thoughts to add on that? I think you're on mute at the moment, aren't you?
Sorry, I'm having a few issues with my display at the moment. That's better. Yeah, I think they would probably tell us.
Yeah.
But I think there may also be things that people are using that they don't even realize.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Nick, what's your experience? What are you finding when it comes up in discussion?
Sorry, can you hear me okay? Sorry,
Yeah,
when that poll came up, it took me off, and I was trying to stay on mute.
I think you're on your device, are you? Not on your laptop or your PC, maybe. That's probably
Yeah,
not helping. It's not very easy to do, is it, when you're on your device? No, sorry, I was just I'm curious as to what you're finding the discussion is like when you ask people about using AI tools. What's your take on it?
I think people don't understand the full remit. I think some are obvious, and people will. I don't think they won't tell the truth, but I think they won't
Sure, yeah.
necessarily understand the full nature of some of the tools that they are using. They are using AI in the background.
Well, I think it's like a bit like the issue with cybersecurity when you have someone who does a cybersecurity audit in a business. There are many practices that are potentially dangerous from a cybersecurity point of view, and they're just a lack of knowledge. There's not people being devious or difficult. It's just people think quite innocently that's okay to use. So I think a lot of it is that really, isn't it? I think. So that's the right way to carry out step one, audit. Um, Step two is the alignment. Again, quite tricky because probably you've got a proliferation of tools being used. My advice, excuse me, is to pick one or two or maybe three tools. You will have some AI functionality built into practice management and workflows already, and the vendors of those systems are already selling you AI tools, and there are legal sector specific AI tools, standalone tools that are being sold, which you'll be familiar with as well. But within the practice as a whole, there'll be existing tools embedded in your IT, such as Microsoft Copilot. And we'll talk about that in a second, but there will be other tools as well. But I would pick one, two, or three tools, not all of the tools that are available, that you basically make the approved tools. So it will probably include, for most legal practices are using Microsoft 365 as there are some unusual ones that aren't, but most are. Copilot is embedded in Microsoft 365, so it makes sense to make that the centerpiece of the AI use. But coming on to my other point there, that a lot of people I've found in the early stages with Copilot have been frustrated that it's slower and less good than ChatGPT or Google Gemini or any of the other AI tools. And so what happens is they default to using other tools. However, Copilot is getting better. It is improving, but there are other tools you can use from a professional competence point of view and from an efficiency point of view. It will sit alongside tools like Copilot, probably two or three, as I said. So it makes sense for you to pick those. And then coming on to the point of data security, there's this concept. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Certainly true. This is true in the LLM world. Means large language model. By the way, that's AI. That's what an AI tool is. So ChatGPT is an LLM. So is Copilot. So is Gemini, and so is Claude, etc. The ones that you and I might use personally, so I'll pick ChatGPT as an example, the free version certainly, and some of the lower subscription levels are what's known as public. So the data set is being used to train people. It's been used to train a wider data set. If you are a law practice, you should be really looking for what lovely bit of jargon is called a walled garden approach, which is where it's at the enterprise levels of these tools where your data is staying private and it's not being used to train the model. With the public LLMs, including some of the lower paid versions, that data is being used for training purposes. Now, I believe I'm right in saying it's anonymized, but only to a certain degree. And anyway, technically speaking, if that is client data, you are actually breaching client confidentiality. So that's step two, alignment. Pick the right tools. But as I said there, you really need to make sure that those tools are the right tools, because if they're slower and worse than the tools that your colleagues have been using, then they'll probably carry on using them. So it's important we get the tool set selection correct. And thirdly, adopt. As I've said, a one-page policy. I call it the traffic light protocol. Green, what's permitted, red, what's prohibited, including things like client data in public AI, unverified citation pleadings, any final advice that's issued without human review. Make sure that is fully documented. There's an audit trail, because when the regulator does get interested and starts asking, you actually have a framework. The actual policy and the way you communicate that, of course, should be very simple, a one-pager. As I said before, no one's going to read the 47-page compliance manual. They'll read a traffic light system. Green means go, red means stop, yellow means please check with somebody Senior. So just quickly turning on to another thing that the regulator clients and insurers are asking, and that is what clients ask you when you ask what you say when clients ask you if you use AI. Do you use AI? Now, obviously, I think to you, if you say no, they won't believe you because they know lots of their friends and family and associates use it. Everyone knows the tools exist now. We're past that point. If you say yes, but without any context, I'll obviously worry about whether their data is safe. So the winning answer, of course, and you can write this down if you want, but it's on screen. When you get the copy of the slides, you'll see that, yes, we use AI tools, but we have a documented governance framework where there's human oversight, client confidentiality, and professional standards compliance. And that, of course, is the difference between a firm that's ignoring or hiding the problem and one that's actually leading on the issue as well. So next steps. So how do you get from where you are today to having the answer ready? Well, of course, you can take the 3 steps that I have just outlined there in those slides, and you'll get these slides, and you can go ahead and implement those yourself within your practice. But however, if you do need my help, this is how I can help you and how it works. So I have developed for 2026 the AI Safe Start. There are 3 phases. We aim to complete it quickly. So I'm setting a target there of 2 weeks because it's quite an urgent problem, obviously. Phase 1 is diagnostic, a shadow AI audit, red flag report, where the actual risks are now, some of those issues we were talking before about which tools and where we think there might be issues with client data. Phase 2 is governance, so creating that board-ready policy, the traffic light protocol, as I call it, something that partners will approve and sign off quickly and easily. And phase 3 is capacity. That's telling everybody and communicating everybody about that and making sure everybody is aligned and everybody is clear. And that is the foundation for then saying, how do we build AI capacity in the practice? Now we know we're in compliance. And often that is the starting point for growth in terms of actually having confidence about using AI. The investment for that, if you're a firm of between 20 and 50 staff, is £2,850. And for firms between 50 and 150, it's 4,650. So that's how I can help you. As I said, that's where you can actually start. If you want to start, if you're interested in that, Lucy's going to drop in the chat a moment a booking link to have a free 30-minute chat with me to see, not to do any sales pitch, just how you get some additional clarity on where the AI, shadow AI risks might actually lie. You'll get this link anyway in an email later as well if you missed that, so don't worry. So let me just leave you with a final thought before we come on to questions. A bit cheesy, but AI is the biggest enabler of human advantage we've ever seen, which it certainly is. And I've been in business for 35 plus years, longer than I care to admit. It's very, very powerful engine, far more powerful and bigger deal than the internet. And that's saying something, isn't it? Every engine needs a steering wheel. The firms, in my view, and certainly talking to lots of other people in the profession that are going to thrive in 2026 are going to be the ones that adopted AI, not going to be the ones that adopt AI quickly. It's the ones that govern it wisely first. And I think for everybody now, the ostrich strategy, ignoring it, is over. So if you want help with that, say book the diagnostic with me and get some clarity, and let's get 2026 started with confidence. So right, let's open that to any questions and chat, and any questions and discussions, any further issues that you might want to raise. So over to you guys. Anything else you want to say, Alison or Nick?
Only thing I would say, we've actually got a survey out amongst our staff at the moment. It wasn't actually driven by management. It was driven by our green team, who are very
Interesting.
concerned about environmental impact
Very
of
good
AI.
point. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sorry, carry on. I interrupted you.
no,
Yes.
I was just going to say I don't know the outcome of that because we've left it for them as you know a staff-driven incentive to just get on
Ooh,
with it. But I'd be
that's
very
interesting.
interested to see what comes back from that as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have actually written an article recently on the net zero implications of AI, which I'll make sure I send to you in the email with the follow-up resources, so you can have a look at that. But yes, I mean that is going to come up. They're going to come. Obviously, I think what you're going to get from people is also discussion about the ethics of it.
Mm.
Obviously, there's a lot of, and I think the other big thing that where we need to handle the communication side very carefully is people are frightened it's going to take their job. So we have to handle it sensitively from a people point of view. But most of the practices I speak to aren't looking to replace people with AI. They're looking simply to build more capacity so they can compete more efficiently. And I think if you get that across clearly in your communication, you will allay those fears. But you may then come up against the wider ethical issues of other jobs that it is taking in other sectors, but also, as you say, about, say, the green aspect, the net zero aspect. Nick, did you have any comments? Sorry, you're having your lunch, aren't you? So
That's
probably
all right, no problem at all. I can multitask. A
good.
couple of things I think. I'd be interested in your view as to whether firms should be keeping records of when generative AI is used for clients, and also on any intelligence you've got in relation to professional indemnity insurance, because um, the SRA are, as you alluded to, very clear in terms of they want to create an environment in which firms can take advantage of technologies and improved services to clients, but at the same time they want to maintain the public protection.
Yeah.
The risks fall firmly with us, but professional indemnity is an interesting one in the sense of if you get the advice wrong and it's AI generated, does that impact the professional indemnity insurance position?
I will give you I will put something in the email to you. I'll do a little bit of digging because there's a couple of people I know in that field. I'll just give you half a paragraph on the implications. But what I've heard is that absolutely the insurers are, as you'd expect, on top of this as a risk issue, and it potentially does impact. And I think as well as pressure from the SRA, you're probably going to get the bigger pressure, maybe even be from the insurers in terms of audit and things. But and to answer your question about sort of keeping track of whether AI is being used but actually having a record of it, a footprint, if you like, I think is what you're talking about. There are. This is the point really about having authorized AI tools. Within authorized AI tools, there's functionality, especially enterprise level ones, which are putting your data in a walled garden, that will help you tackle that issue. And this is perhaps another aspect of unauthorized AI is that, as I said, people are copying and pasting innocently, you would say, or certainly without a motive, client data into an AI tool without any knowledge or reference or indeed a footprint of how much of that data has been put inside AI. So yeah, absolutely. But I will try and make sure I dig out something in the email I send to you about the aspects of. I'll send it to Alison as well about the aspects of how it affects professional indemnity insurance, or at least how they're seeing it at the moment. But it's likely, like the SRA, speaking to it's actually a long-term friend of mine who works for SRA, just coincidentally, I know that they will be evolving their position as the pace gathers. We're going to see pace gathering really quickly now, I think, with AI. So I'm sure the insurers will be equally keen. And I know from my experience of talking to people inside financial services, the wealth management sector, where the FCA are probably ahead of the SRA on these issues, that it has had an impact on the indemnity insurers as well. So I will dig some information out for you to sort of help inform that debate. Anything?
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Nick, have you got anything more you wanted to add? Or Alison, have you got anything else? Any other thoughts that are leaping up at you?
No, and I think probably my last one. Are you in favour of an AI governance committee, a sort of cross-functional committee, kind of responsible for overseeing AI in an organisation, or what are your thoughts on that? What are your views
Well,
on that?
the practices I've spoken to, the bigger practice, by big I mean over 100 people, tend to have some of them are now appointing AI directors, certainly appointing innovation directors. I don't know if you've noticed that. But I absolutely think you ought to be looking at a strategic approach across the practice that draws upon the different functions within the business. And so governance committee might be the way that you would frame it, but you might frame it in a less in more about an innovation committee, really, perhaps governance being part of their brief. But it's interesting to see the different ways that practices are are um, are approaching it. As I said, I've noticed a fairly significant increase in number of innovation directors and AI directors being appointed in the mid-sized firms. It's been quite interesting to see. But yes, I think you definitely do need to look at a strategic approach that involves the, the main stakeholders as you see them in the practice. Not in similar in the way we're talking about here about governing shadow AI, not to stifle innovation, but to enable it. I'm sure that's the way that you see it. That's how you come across, Nick. That's the way you see it going forward. But I think awareness, knowledge, some of the issues we talked about today, there'll be a lack of knowledge about them, won't there, I think?
Yeah.
So definitely I would do that. Alison, have you got anything you want to add?
I think it's very interesting that, I mean, I hope you can't hear me, but our IT team are quite resistant to
Yes,
exploring it.
yes.
And when I said to our IT director the other day, "Are you not excited by the possibility?"
Yeah, yeah, you think they would be, wouldn't you?
He said no, because it's just another thing I'm going to have to do
Yes,
and look after,
correct.
and people are going to ask me about. And
Yes,
actually, the impetus in our firm is coming from our marketing team who are
it
saying,
will. Yes.
these are all the wonderful things. And I've gone out with our marketing director to loads of events and conferences, and we come back all inspired about what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then our IT team say, can't do that. It's too dangerous. So,
Well, I'll take you back to my top point about bring your own device. We
Mhm.
had that then. Is IT department where this is not going to happen. When the smartphones came out, people started bringing smartphones into work and using them to access the internet and email. IT departments were dead against it because it adds to their workload and their burden. But I
Mhm.
have got some work that I'm doing with basically they're a managed service provider for an IT firm about how we tackle that in terms more about mindset than anything else, because it is opportunity. I mean, for example, if you're a Microsoft user and you do have Copilot, there will be a workload on them to enable a lot of Copilot automation workflows that are in there already, if they're not already doing that. And they'll see it as extra work. But looking down the track a bit, it actually will make their life a lot easier
Mhm.
from a compliance. So that's the way to talk about the business case for it. But yeah, you're right. But I've seen it before, even before the internet. I can remember the same thing happening. So, but certainly, internet, smartphone, cloud computing, bring your own device, always the same. You would think the IT people would be at the forefront of it and would be the ones banging the drum for it, but no, it's fairly typical. It's what I would have expected, actually. Um, Great. Okay. I've taken up enough of your time already. I'm very grateful for for seeing you today. I'm going to send off some information resources to you, and so we'll send you the link to the recording as well, so you can have the glory of watching it again or sharing it with some colleagues. You never know. I'll send you the slide deck. And the specific things we talked about today, that the specific questions that you had, and of course the link to book a chat with me if that's appropriate. So I'm really grateful for your time. As busy managing partners, that's always appreciated. And you haven't got much of the week left, but there's at least one full day left to achieve things. So lovely to see you, and take care, and see you all soon.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Cheers.